All right, English teacher friends. So for this alternative to traditional grading, we're going to bring Bob Barker into the foray, that guy from The Price is Right, and dub this one the cliffhanger edition. So before I put this one on full display, I kind of want to talk briefly about what I have found to be problematic about the traditional grading paradigm. So, for one, early in my career, I had this epiphany and I said, hey, wait a minute. In my contract, did I sign up for compulsory unpaid overtime? Because I do seem to be working like 60, 70, 80 hour weeks just getting through the sheer volume of grading that I need to do. And it just wasn't tenable for me to do that amount of grading all the time. I had no life, little kids, raising a family, going to graduate school. And, that was part of it, was the time factor. But two, in the traditional grading system, ever since the one room schoolhouse, this is what it looks like. We help students get their thinking on paper. They submit their final draft to us, and we sit on it for a couple of weeks, and then we begrudgingly give up an evening or a weekend, or evenings and weekends, and we squeeze as many comments as possible in their margins. And then, I typically give a little paragraph summation of what I saw going on in the writing, the good, the bad, the ugly, and slap a grade on it. And I said, wait a minute here, this is screwed up, because I'm doing 99.9% of the work. Within this paradigm, seriously, what are we asking students to do? At most, we're asking them to read our comments. And we know that most of our students don't even do that, which is kind of telling. They often subjectively look at the grade and say things like, yeah, awesome, Mr. Kuhn gave me a 93. So like it's just me bequeathing them something. Or Mr. Kuhn gave me a 71. He must hate me, So you get a lot of that going on. So there's a disconnect between grade and learning. And then ultimately, like learning target, where are you going to go from here to grow and mature and flourish as a writer? So lots of disconnects there and lots of inequities that I found to be problematic. So, you know, true story. My great grandfather is the co-author of the Anarchist Cookbook, and I think I got a little bit of that anarchy in my bloodline. So I'm like, I gotta outthink the system here. I gotta have a little coup d'état and put the kibosh on this traditional grading method. So very early in my career, I came up with some alternatives. And yeah, over time, I'm sharing them. I have some plans for these things, so I'm just going to share one with you at the moment. So, in order for these to work, it's really imperative to keep in mind that you have to equip your students with a template, whether they be mine or somebody else's template. You need to have like a honed in focus on specifics with regards to composition. So when I'm talking to my students about the introductory paragraph, we're speaking in terms of the declarative and the inverted thesis, and with the body paragraphs, the syllogistic method. And for those of you that are familiar with my work, there's a whole body of language and theory and technique that's encapsulated within those templates. Otherwise, we're just talking in the ether, and the scope is too big. We just don't know what to focus on when we're commenting on student work, and that just kind of leads to that greater disconnect that we see. So, in order for this to work, yeah, emphatically, like definitely, you have to equip your kids with a template, and I can help you out with that if you want to learn mine. Plenty of stuff on YouTube, but reach out if you want some assistance with that. The other thing too is, and I really emphasize this with the teachers that I work with, you got to Bob Ross your instruction. And here's what I mean by that. You are the expert writer in the classroom. Write with your kids. Provide plenty of exemplars and models. So, I think Bob Ross is probably one of the greatest teachers ever in terms of modeling and delineating clear expectations. So when he came onto the screen and said, today we're going to paint New England wood-covered bridge in an autumnal landscape. He would sit there at the easel and canvas and literally paint it with his students to walk you right through the process. And we, as English teachers, need to do that. We need to teach and not assign. So if we're working on introductions for Lord of the Flies, I might say to my students, all right, we know that we're doing literary analysis, so we're going to invert the thesis. I wrote 3 examples for you. Here's example 1, talk your way through it. Example 2, example 3. All right, class, you've seen it 3 times. On your mark, get set, go, do it on your own. It totally demystifies the writing process when we do that. And the writing becomes a lot better over the course of the academic year if we consistently assume that Bob Ross approach to the teaching of composition. So the other caveat to this, and I've got this feedback from teachers when I've displayed my alternative grading methods is, man, like, you seriously don't have kids cry and like squirming and running out of class when their work is projected on the screen? And I say, no, my guys get very accustomed to having their work displayed to the whole class. So I really insist on the idea that you need to have, many eyes on your writing. That's how you become a better writer. I build classroom culture where we're not mean, vindictive, spiteful, demeaning, degrading, belittling. When we're commenting on student drafts, we're always constructively critical. That's an absolute must in terms of environment. So I do, a fairly decent job of creating writers that don't have glass jaws. So let's say, for example, we're displaying Jason's essay during our writing workshop. Jason's got to be able to sit there receptive to receive criticism, feedback, with his classmates' eyes, recognizing the good, the bad, the ugly with regards to his writing. So I started early in the academic year, and it's just a staple of the class. So nobody faints, nobody withers in doing this. But yeah, all right. So here's the thing with the cliffhanger rendition of this. So there's many different ways that you can do this, and principally for me, I use this model when I want revision. So a lot of teachers find that pure editing models really don't work well. Students just don't do a really good job giving their peers advice on how to improve their writing. And there's a reason for that. One is, you don't have the language of a template, and then all that nuanced mechanical stuff also needs to be shared common knowledge. Otherwise, it's not going to work. So here's how I do it. Let's say, for example, that I have a class of like 13 AP language students. The students will submit their drafts to me. All right. I will remove their names. Just totally remove their names. It's anonymous. And this is one thing that's good for that glass jaw theory. Just remove their names. And what we do is display each student's draft on the overhead. So I have the whiteboards and all that high-tech stuff that you guys probably have as well. And we read it together as a class. So me, as well as all the students, are looking at this one kid's draft. And what we're doing is finding 3 things that the student has done well, and 3 things that the student needs to improve upon. And I'll show you the PowerPoint slide in a second. I actually have a cliffhanger PowerPoint, and I'll demonstrate how that goes. So I have participation quotas for this, and here's what I mean by this. We all know that if we have 13 students in a writing workshop, certain kids will monopolize the conversation. It's one of the reasons why I'm not a big fan of Socratic seminars and fishbowls and Harkness discussions, right? You got to find ways to prevent that monopoly from happening. Some kids just become, wallpaper during those discussions. So I might set a quota and say each kid must participate 5 times during this writing workshop. So as we look at these 13 drafts, I want to hear from you at least 5 times. So the whole class is peer editing this, and we might say things like this. I see in your introductory paragraph that you have an excessive use of to be verbs. That's creating a passive voice, so you might want to look at that. I see that you're overusing the short, simple declarative sentence. Maybe combine sentences 2 and 3 of your introduction and turn it into a parenthetical statement. So this is the kind of stuff that I want my students to be saying. Or really love your tier 2 level vocabulary, but times it sounds contrived and pretentious. You're out of your wheelhouse a little bit, so why don't you dial back the vocabulary? So I want my students saying that. That's ownership right there. If I don't have to say it and they can say it, then I know I got some learning going on. So let me show you something real quick and fully explain this here. So this is what the PowerPoint looks like, right? So the student drafts are up on one screen. This is up on the other screen. Some of you might not have 2 screens, so you could host it in Google Classroom or wherever. Manipulate the technology you have. So as comments and feedback and suggestions are being offered, our Swiss climber just moves up, right? So we're going for 6 suggestions, and you can, based on time, you can go 3 suggestions, 4 suggestions. It doesn't matter, right? The good, the bad, the ugly with regards to the writing. And ultimately, what we're doing is we're sending the kid over into the cliff of revision. Like, be gone. You got, we told you 3 things that you're doing well, 3 things that you need to, improve upon. And let's go revise or touch this up before you submit your final draft. So the kids basically have done my job for me. Beautiful, right? So I could, in a traditional paradigm, do all that work for the student themselves, but that's why it doesn't work, is because I'm doing all of the work. So having students do the heavy lifting really kind of demystifies the process a little bit for them and elucidates what they specifically need to do in advancing their writing. So at the end of the workshop, here's what I ask my students to do, and I put it on this slide back here. Come away with 3 concrete learning targets. So at the end of the writing workshop, I have each student write to me. I usually just have them send me an email or something, or write it down on a piece of paper. What are 3 concrete learning targets? What are 3 specific things that you need to do to advance this paper, to make it better, brush it up, before it's a final draft, before you submit it for a final grade? And they're all able to do that, so it's pretty cool. So get through here. So as you know, I'm doing some alternative grading method webinars. I'm hosting one with Perfection Learning the last Tuesday in April, and we'll put out more details for that. And it's totally free. It's an hour, so I'll have time to go over the templates and probably take a deep dive at about, I don't know, 7, 8, 9 different alternative grading methods. So if you're interested in that, come take a peek. And some teachers want to go even further than that. So I do a 2-hour alternative grading intensive where we go over a thorough explanation of the templates and all 40 alternative grading methods. And rock and roll that way. So stay tuned in the groups, and Perfection Learning and I will let you guys know specifically how to sign up for that webinar if you want to attend. And if you have any questions, drop me an email at teachingwritingcoach@gmail.com, or you can visit my webpage for more details on my PDs and things of that nature. So teachinghowtowrite.com. All right, take care for now.